Hi folks, Bale Musitz here. I want to take you through the next steps on your ICE project and also talk about the business model canvas, which is sort of the framework we're going to use for this. So this is a big project. It's a pretty substantial part of your grade, and it will be your project for the duration of this course. So it's something that we're going to build upon as we move forward. So I want to take you through and set expectations and sort of get you guys comfortable with the various different elements of this. So let's get on with it. Okay, so for your improved customer experience project, the final deliverable is going to be a PowerPoint or slide presentation with narration. Since we're doing this online, we're going to do this. It's pretty simple, and I'll go through that in a second. The audience for this is your boss. Remember, you're working for a major grocery retailer, and they want to improve their promotion score and their net promotion score, and your boss has asked you to go to the flagship store and figure out how to improve the customer experience. We're going to use something called the business model canvas as a framework. There's many variations of this. It's something that's been around in business schools for a long time, and I've modified it a little bit to hopefully fit this project. And with respect to PowerPoint with voice-over narration, you can use either PowerPoint, the Microsoft product, or you can use Google Slides. Both of them have a way of adding voice-over, and there's a couple of video links in Moodle just above where this is, or below, I'm not sure. And you can click on those, and there's instructions on how to set that up and get it going. My suggestion to you is to practice once or twice to get the flow of it. And it may seem awkward. Don't worry about it. But as long as the content is there, everything will be fine. So let's go on to the next slide here. So we're going to dive right into the business model canvas. And you should view this as sort of the outline or the framework for your presentation. And there's going to be some interim presentations along the way. So the big complete one will be at the end of the course, but I'm going to have at least probably two other sort of mini ones, progress reports along the way. Number one, where you can practice doing the voiceovers, and also start fleshing out your content and these various different elements within the business model canvas, and I can give you feedback on them. So one of the key elements of the business model canvas is the customers. So making sure you understand who your customers are and why are they going to buy or use your new thing, your new improvement process, and what problem you're trying to solve for them. So this should be based upon your observations, sort of what you saw when you went on your field trip, excuse me, and say, hey, look, I observed these things. This is a problem. I spoke to people. Hey, what a novel idea. I don't know how many of you did that, but you can certainly talk to customers when you're in the store. You could say, hey, excuse me, I'm a graduate student working on a project, and I'd like to get some thoughts from you. So people are usually very receptive to doing that, or at least, 8 out of 10 are. So customer segments, you got to talk about the customer. So this is a key element of your presentation for your ICE project. A next key element is your value proposition. So what customer needs are you satisfying? Why is your proposition unique from other things? Currently, the customer, let's say you're trying to come up with a new efficient way to get deli meats. Well, currently the customers are getting deli meats. So that's what they're using today. So how is your idea or proposition unique from a current one? And who are your customers? Is it aimed at a particular segment? Think about a grocery store. There's all sorts of customers who go through a grocery store. There's the 85-year-old bachelor male. There's the 21-year-old bachelor male, and there's the married person coming through shopping for a family. all very different people on all very different missions, if you will. So again, understand your customers, what's the segment you're going after, and what's your value proposition to them. It's all important. Another thing you can certainly think about is your competitors, right? Let's say your target is ShopRite. Well, there's no reason you can't walk through some of the other chains around your area to see what they're doing with regard to that. So you could think about doing that. I don't think it's required, but certainly it's something you're going to want to address somehow at some point. All right, let's get on to the next slide. So as you can tell, there's a lot of stuff here on customers. So how do you get your customers? So if you're going to set up a new way of, again, buying deli meats, maybe it's in a different part of the store. How are you going to attract customers to come there? How are you going to set it up? What's going to grab their attention? So how do you get customers and how do you keep them? Right? You're trying to make this a better experience, so you got to think that stuff through. And really importantly is just because you get a customer to come there, how do you get them to take action? What's sort of the call to action? What's the motivating factor that's going to get them to act? So think about that. And I think, one of the things here is this business model canvas can be used for all types of businesses, all types of projects. And the ones that you guys have is pretty specific. It's in a grocery store. You're trying to do some specific things. And not all of these elements will be applicable to every one of your projects. So take the ones that are most meaningful. Take the ones that work the best for you. And don't worry about having to include them all. But certainly there's some key topical areas here you have to cover, like customers and a few others as we progress through this. So one element that your boss is going to certainly want to know, is this going to generate us any additional revenue, right? Is this going to make our dollars grow? And so is it? If it's not, then why do we want to do it? If it's going to cost us money and all of these things are going to cost something, why do we want to do it? So you got to have some projections here that sort of talk about increasing revenues somehow, maybe by attracting a different segment of customers that you don't currently attract. Maybe it's by making them buy something they don't buy today, or maybe it's by upselling them into something that's more expensive but provides more convenience or something. So there's a lot of different options here. But you really got to think through is how much your customers are willing to pay for this. And again, remember we talked about killer assumptions earlier in another episode of one of these talks, and think about what are your key assumptions and have you tested them. Remember we talked about killer assumptions in the Airbnb segment where they had a killer assumption that people would trust each other. So here you go. You got to figure out what your key assumptions are. And you got to think through price compared to your cost, and we'll get a little more detail on that on another slide. So speaking of cost, here we go. What does it cost to operate your new idea? You're going to set up a new kiosk of some sort that's selling something. Well, what do those things cost? So here you're going to have to do a little bit of financial modeling. So you're going to need a chart or a spreadsheet, whatever you want to call it, or a table that's going to talk about here's the cost for this thing. Here's the capital I have to spend. Here's the expense dollars. I'm going to have to hire another person. I'm going to have to buy more inventory. I'm going to have to buy different inventory, etc. So you're going to have to figure out what those are as they pertain to your project. And here again, these things are not really hard, but you just got to give them some thought. So that should cover the cost stuff for now. Let's move on to the next one. Well, who are your key partners? So you might say, well, what do you mean by that? Do I got to get Coca-Cola? Well, maybe if you're thinking about deli meats, maybe you get Boar's Head to help you promote this thing in the beginning because you're going to feature exclusively Boar's Head meats here. So that would be one thing to partner. Maybe you think of that as a supplier. But the other piece here is within a grocery store, it's a large organization. are you going to have to get other parts of the grocery store, other departments within the grocery store to work with you to make this successful? Why are they motivated to do it? Is there a little quid quo pro here? Is there something that you can do with them and they can do with you that makes this partnership better for all? So you want to think through partners. Are there any required? So that's sort of the big one. Are there any required for this? And that should be a question mark, I guess. And who are they? And what kind of relationship do you need to have with them? So give that some thought as well. So how are you going to get this thing done? This is the getting it done section. What's it going to take? Do you need to redo part of the store? Do you need to remodel stuff? Do you need different lighting? What equipment do you need, etc.? So you got to give this some thought. And of course, this will play a role in how much it's going to cost. So a lot of these things in the business model canvas are related. As you sort of develop one, it helps answer questions in another one. And then as you ask questions in another one, it helps you roll out and understand other segments of this. That's one of the nice things about it. So think about what are the key things, the key steps along the way. You could think of these as you're managing a project. Okay, what are my key activities? What are my key milestones? All right, let's move on to the next one. So we talked a little bit about resources and costs. But remember, resources are not just costs. They can be physical assets. They can be people. They could be training. We need to do some training of our staff folks. So think this through. And again, a lot of these topics are sort of related. They may not all be 100% applicable to your situation. And you don't have to use all of these in your analysis, but I just want you to at least think about them here and figure out which ones fit best for you. And also, hopefully this way we won't leave anything out. That's important. You're not going to get up there in front of your boss and he's going to say, well, how much is all this going to cost? And you're going to go, duh, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. So that's a mistake you only make one. That's a mistake I have made only once in my life. Let me put it to you that way. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So this sort of wraps it up here. So one of the other things you're going to want to have is sort of a little set of project steps. What are the different milestones? I think we sort of talked about this. What's the next specific one? And how do the dollars have to flow? When do you need them? And remember, some of these are not just about implementation. You may want to do a little bit more work on your idea. You may want to do a survey with, I don't know, all your Facebook friends. That's the great thing about the grocery store. Everybody goes and they all have an opinion. Or maybe some point here is don't think of milestones for this project only as being flushing out the cost and the revenues and those things, but think about it as I have an idea. How can I test that idea? How can I get some more data on the idea itself? Can I get some more feedback from people? What are our assumptions, and do people really going to value this new feature or new idea we're going to have? So I think that sort of wraps it up for most of the important key things here. I think I have one more slide. Let's get on to that one. Okay, so just to summarize, this business model canvas is part of, I think, a foundation or the framework that you can use for your improved customer experience project. Not all of these elements we just spoke about are going to apply to your project. So select them carefully. Some of them are very close to each other and related, and that's fine. But I want to make sure you don't leave anything out. And remember, the end result is going to be a voice over PowerPoint that you're going to do, similar to what you're watching now, but without the annotations that I do. You need a special computer to do that, so you'll just be able to add voice. You won't be able to add these fancy pen strokes that I do, but that's fine. No need for that. And I want you to work on this because this is an important element of this course, important element of the learning that happens here. And remember, there's going to be two sort of midstream updates. I think in about 2 weeks, I'm going to ask you to put together sort of your straw man pitch of slides and sort of kind of roughly cover the topics and flush things out and identify in that sort of what are the big missing links still, and then do it again in about 2 weeks after that, and then the final one. And the whole objective of those midterm or mid-season checkpoints is to sort of give you feedback and make sure that you're thinking along ways that make sense to everyone so that you can end up with a good product at the end. So thanks again, and appreciate you listening in on this. And these ICE projects are always a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy yours as well. So thanks. And we'll see you soon.